I'm Alli Mauzey.
And I'm Mamie Parris from Wicked. And you're watching In Focus.
Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Wicked is making an unprecedented fourth visit to Denver, and later I have an exclusive visit with both of the leading ladies. We also have a visit with both of the leading ladies from Opera Colorado's production of Il Trovatore. Here's one of the most recognizable moments. Before my visits with the leading ladies, we begin tonight with Opera Colorado's General Director, Greg Carpenter. Well, this is the end of the season with Opera Colorado. How did you choose this as your closing production?
Well, I think this particular opera, Il Trovatore, has a limited history at Opera Colorado in terms of the fact that we've only done it one time. Back in 1985, and because the company was in its infancy and money was pretty scarce back then as the company was being built, they didn't really have enough funds to do a full production of it. So as we were looking at what would cap off this great season of Marriage of Figaro at the first one, and then Florencia and El Amazonas, I thought, why not do Il Trovatore? We had done some surveying a few years ago of our subscribers and single ticket buyers, and one of the most common responses to what would you like to see more of from Opera Colorado was more Verdi. We want to hear more Verdi. So I thought, okay, here's our opportunity.
Why do you think they say they want to hear more Verdi?
You know, I think partly because Verdi used to be very popular. It used to be a mainstay of just about every opera company's repertoire. And Verdi is becoming more difficult to cast and more difficult to put on the stage because it requires such huge forces. Large choruses, typically large-scale set, the extra supers on stage that fill out and create that extra drama. I mean, think of Aida. You know, you've got to have that huge triumphal scene with elephants and animals and many, hundreds of people on stage. And that's very expensive to do, and in this world we're living in, the economic world we're living in right now, that's becoming less and less feasible. So finding a good production, a great cast, and putting it all together doesn't happen every single time you want something like that.
So they're eager for it.
Yeah, so I think the audience is eager for Verdi. We haven't done any since La Traviata in 2008. So we're due for, we're due for some good old Joe Green Verdi.
It's interesting that the last time Opera Colorado mounted this opera, it was a difficult economy, and you're doing it now in a difficult economy. Yet Opera Colorado is in a much healthier position than they were in 1985. See if you can compare the climate of being able to mount the opera for me.
Absolutely. You know, I think back in those early days when Nat Merrill was running the company, sometimes it was easier to put these casts for these big Verdi operas together because Nat had a direct connection to the Metropolitan Opera. He had come from there. He had worked with many of the major artists there. And, he was able to pick up the phone and call in, sort of call in
persuasion.
A little persuasion. And I think to a certain degree, call in some favors. He helped build some careers that, they to a certain degree might have owed him a little bit for that. And so it was easier to put together those sort of blockbuster casts that you need for an opera like this. In today's age, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. I think we have more resources in terms of the funding to do it. But in general, getting out there and finding just the right people to sing the four principal roles in this show is very, very difficult.
you couldn't possibly mount this size of a production without using a lot of local talent. Tell us about how you find them.
You know, our chorus all is local. We audition them every year, and we pull from various sources around the city. They get paid little to nothing. They do this for the love of the art form. They all have day jobs, so they're rushing here right after work, grabbing some dinner and coming downtown and giving their all after a long, 8 or 10 hour day at the office. You know, our backstage crew, the ladies that work in our wigs and makeup and costume area, those are all pretty much local folks that just are incredibly talented. And we are so lucky that they're right here in the city. Our orchestra is, a big share of it is from Denver, although we do draw a bit from as far up as Greeley and Fort Collins and down to Colorado Springs. But what is exciting to me is, yes, we are bringing artists in from all over the world. Avgust Amanov, our Manrico in this show, is from Russia, conductors from Russia. But we're using a lot of local homegrown talent and, feeding our economy to a certain degree with that as well.
And the local homegrown talent is getting to exercise their craft with these world-class artists.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I was singing and coming up through the ranks, one of the first things I did right out of graduate school is I moved back home to Cleveland, Ohio, and I joined Cleveland Opera Chorus. Mm-hmm. And the people I stood next to on that stage, Cheryl Milnes, Elizabeth Holliquay, some of the great singers of the 80s, I learned more from standing next to them and watching them work than you could ever learn in a college course. And I think that's what's incredible about what we can offer some of the local folks here.
Now we meet the leading ladies from Opera Colorado's Il Trovatore, Nancy Maultsby and Michele Capalbo. So there are pieces of this opera that you're here to bring us that the audience, whether they're familiar with opera or not, will know immediately. Tell us about how you overcome that expectation where we've heard some of the music in commercials and cartoons, and now we're finally going to get to hear it in context for those of us who've never seen this opera before. What does that feel like to you as an artist?
Well, I think luckily, in a way, the most recognizable piece is actually the Anvil chorus, which is a choral piece. So we're a little bit off the hook.
I'm totally off the hook, and the next famous, or arguably even more famous, is the tenor's aria, Di Quella Pira, and obviously we're not tenors, so
we're off the hook.
Yeah.
And this is a really challenging opera. Tell me why it's viewed as such a challenging opera from the artist's point of view.
Oh, it's something that always comes up. It's like, and we keep answering, well, it's high and it's low and it's fast and it's slow. But really, if you look at the piece of music, it's Verdi, and it's, when it comes right down to it, you could blast through the entire thing and just sing it all loud. It's not only that it's high and low and has all the colors that he could possibly request from a singer, but it's the detail that he put into the score. If you want to truly honor what he wrote, it just takes so much time and attention and, dare I say, just sheer love of this man's music to devote that much time to suss it out.
Those demands probably are what makes it so much more popular, not just with the audience, but with the singers.
Absolutely. It's an enormous challenge. I mean, and everything she said is absolutely true. But it's also just incredibly, they're just some of the most beautiful music ever written, and that also makes it. And also the characters. I mean, my character in particular, I think Verdi is sort of, another thing we love about him is that his characters are often complex, and that's also very attractive. I mean, I think in Trovatore it's definitely more about the music than anything else, but
the female characters are quite strong, which you might not think of in something written so long ago.
I think that the gypsy character is easy to say she's powerful because she sets up all of the events that we see happening. She has made choices that are not usual for women of this time. My character requires a little more thought in that regard. Is she powerful? Well, she's a gal of means, and so she's searching for her destiny. Will she go the route that's expected and marry the Count de Luna, or will she marry this wonderful gypsy that she has a huge crush on but doesn't even know his name until the end of the first act? So he's a mystery. Or will she enter the convent? And so at the end of Act 2, with all of these three elements coming together, she finally makes a choice and decides
I think
what
that's
her
what makes her
destiny
powerful.
is.
She has a
Yes,
choice.
for a woman of this period to make a choice. But Verdi was very specific with a lot of his women. He wanted them to have a sense of destiny. Whether or not it happens before the action or during the action, there's always a sense of that they have some control. They're not merely props,
Right.
you know?
Rarely are they damsel in distress.
Tell me what does it mean when we call you the gypsy? What does that mean? Does it mean what someone who isn't familiar with this piece thinks of when they think of a gypsy?
Yes, it does. I mean, I think gypsy can mean a lot of things, but what we associate with a gypsy is sort of free spirit, where we sort of travel in packs. We kind of scrounge to find our way. We're rough and tumble people. You know, we live in the mountains and we make it, you know, from whatever is around us, our wits, whatever. You know, and Azucena is definitely that.
When you're coming to Colorado to sing, obviously, you know, every singer who comes here is concerned about the altitude because it can impact you. What are the other positives about coming here to Colorado to sing with Opera Colorado?
Lots of them.
I mean, the company is just so welcoming. For the first week, they didn't say boo to us because they knew we were adapting to the altitude, and they were just so happy to have us here. So we were so happy to be here in consequence. So it's just the warm overall feeling, even just walking down the street, buying a sandwich or whatever it is. That's what overwhelms me.
It's true. And the company, there's just a great vibe. It's, I mean, very high production values. No question that you're here to work, and that's what we do. But there's, in every aspect, you know, the people who, the stage managers, the people who do props, the chorus, the higher ups, you know, it's just it has a great vibe. I don't know, there's a good tone. And I've sensed that but the times that I've been here before too, which is great. It's a great work environment.
It's really gratifying to hear you say that it's welcoming and that you acknowledge the high production values here, because we're all excited, the audience is excited that you're here, and we can't wait to come and see you. Thank you for letting us interrupt your rehearsal day today, since it's getting so close to your opening.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
This brief run at Opera Colorado opens tomorrow and runs through May 6th. Visit operacolorado.org for more details. Back by popular demand, Wicked makes its fourth visit to Denver. And we had an invitation for an exclusive visit with both of the leading ladies. The delightful Alli Mauzey makes her first visit to Denver, and the divine Mamie Parris makes her second powerhouse visit to Denver. Well, welcome back to Colorado, and welcome to Colorado.
Thank you.
This is your
It's
first
my first
stop in
it is
Colorado ever.
Yes, I've been very excited. This is a city I've been looking forward to.
What made you want to? What was about Colorado that made you? Want
I
to
love the outdoors. I love hiking. I love all of that. So coming here, I was super excited about.
And you've been here before. You
I
got
have.
to explore a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we had a great time last time. My husband came to visit. We went to Red Rocks, which was fabulous. I can't wait to go back. So, yeah, I've always enjoyed my time here.
And you'll have so much more time to explore because you're here for 6 weeks.
Yeah, long time.
You've played your part before
Yes.
for long stretches of time.
The longest stretch I've had is 9 months.
That's a long. You could make a person in 9 months.
Yes, I could.
That's a very good way of looking at it.
I was on
could've
Broadway
made
for 9 months. Other people were making babies.
So you did make a person. You made Glinda.
I made
That's
Glinda.
right.
Yeah, I birthed my Glinda in New York for 9 months. Yes.
What is and you did it in San Francisco?
I did the closing company. Yeah.
So what's the difference between doing it on tour and on Broadway?
Well, I mean, there's always the adjustment coming to a new theater, adjusting to the sound, the climate. We just came from a very wet Portland, and now we're in. I guess it's a more dry here, right?
Oh, very
it's
dry.
Very dry. It's an adjustment to figure out. Okay, how do I need to take care of myself? I've been telling people recently my favorite bubble so far that I've flown in is the one on tour.
Why?
Because the way the bubbles come out in the very beginning and the fans that blow, it blows it the bubbles the furthest away from my face. So I never, because there's been times where I've gotten a bubble in my eye, I've gotten a little bit in my throat when I'm singing. So
Isn't that charming to try to get that out?
Oh, it's
The
not
things
cute.
you
Soap
don't
in your
think
mouth.
about.
It
All
is
the
not
glamorous
cute.
things
Yeah.
you don't hear about.
So this has been my favorite for that very reason.
And you got to join this tour before she rejoined.
Yeah.
So you've had 2 Glindas.
I've had several Galindas,
Several
actually.
Galindas.
Yes, including the understudies that I've been on with. I've been on with some terrific understudies and standbys. I believe I've had 8 Glindas so far.
And only since, what, October?
Only since October.
Wow. What are
It's
you
been
doing to the
very
Galindas?
exciting.
Exactly.
Well, you know,
That's my point.
Exactly. It is curious now. But I have had, I think, 3 actual permanent Galindas who've been here for a set amount of time, and they've each been delightful and each been very different. And it's kind of fun to re-examine that relationship with every new actress. It's really, it makes my performance different and new, and I enjoy that.
That was one thing I wanted to talk to you about is this is so well established in the audience's mind. Most people are familiar with the show. Many of them are devoted to the show, could potentially get up and sing along with the whole show.
Some do.
Some
yeah.
do. So when you have that and you have that iconography set in place, you sort of have to stick to that, but you have to be an artist and make it real for yourself.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I mean, I know for myself, the first thing you can do when you start to work on a character is you can't help but build a relationship with that character as if she's another person. And then as you start to create it and she starts to become a part of you, I can't help but bring what I have into this role. And I think that's what makes it work for me, is that it's, you know, the Elphaba I'm bringing is the Elphaba that's a little bit of me in there. That being said, there's always a little bit of pressure. There's always a little bit of, I don't know, there's something to knowing that many other talented actresses have played this role. But in a way, you know, you get the benefit of knowing what's come before you. You know, when I learned the role, I didn't have to discover certain things on my own. There were things where they said, well, lots of people find that this works better, and hey, you know, steal from the best. That's the way, and why not?
Was it like that for you when you did Glinda the first time?
It's interesting to see where I started and where I'm at now, you know, for doing it so long, and how things have morphed, you know, new jokes that I found, and even what other Elphabas bring to the table and how my relationship has changed with Elphaba, you know. I'm definitely the freest I've been the longer I've done it, you know. But like Mamie said, like I got asked to do this because of, you know, what I brought to the table, you know. And I think as long as you stay true to who the character is and how it's written, and how it's intended, your personality and what you bring to just naturally comes through, you know? So I still feel like I get to bring me to it just because.
You don't feel like you have to imitate the people who created these
Not
roles?
at all.
No,
Not at all.
I don't feel that at all, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I know I couldn't do it. I know it would not be a good performance if I tried to imitate Kristen Chenoweth. She's my favorite Glinda, by the way, you know? And I think she's perfect in the role. And I'm not her, you know? So I'm just me.
Well, I loved your Glinda equally as well as hers, and I had the chance to see hers. It is a little different.
Yeah.
How do you describe your Glinda?
She's just, I think she just always wants everything to be very appropriate, you know, and good and nice and fun, and, you know, so when things don't go, I mean, she comes from a very privileged background too, and she's used to things going her way, and so when things keep not going her way when she comes to school. She doesn't understand why. This has never happened to her before.
I think a lot of actors who go off to New York to seek their fortune have that experience.
Oh,
because they could be
yeah.
the best where they come from.
Oh, yes.
And then they get there, and it's everybody else is the best.
Element of Glinda, yeah, she gets her way just because of who she is, and she's very charming, you know. But she gets kind of kicked into the real world, and so because of that, she grows along the way.
The last time we saw you here in Denver, you were Judy in 9 to 5, a woman who didn't understand her own power and had to find it.
Interesting similarities, isn't it?
And this time we're seeing you play a young woman who doesn't understand her own power and finds it.
It's true.
How did you find Elphaba?
Well, you know, I think that, you know, there are similarities lots of times in other characters you've played, and I think both Judy and Elphaba, even though they are very different characters, very different people,
Very different musically, too.
very different musically, are both works in progress. You know, that's the great thing about Wicked, the strong book that we have is that the characters of Glinda and Elphaba that we meet at the top are not the same people we meet at the end of the show. We make such terrific journeys. So I think with Elphaba, it was all about finding, Elphaba is a very honest person. She's a very genuine person, even in her facade at the beginning, her defensive facade. Everything that's underneath that is really pure and intentional and honest. And I think similarly to Glinda, she wants to be good. She wants to make good. She wants to create that, and just has to learn how. She wants to find control in an out-of-control world, in an out-of-control environment. And I think part of her journey is learning to let go.
It's amazing to see this musical take theater and all of those things. Every actor describes their role that way. You know, my character goes on this journey, but in this show, it's a musical theater piece of entertainment. But we really do have that meaty bit to grab onto.
Yeah. What's interesting for my character is I start the show where I end. I've been through it already, so I have to start there every night. Then I go back to
Yeah, that's
young Glinda.
difficult.
You know, it's fun on 2 show days. I'm like, oh, I've been through the journey today. Like, I've already been through the journey. I know where to start. But that's always interesting to me. I have to, like, when I'm in my bubble, I'm realizing, okay, I'm at the end of the show right now. You know, and
Yeah.
I've already gone through everything, you know.
That must be
How true.
a hard gear to shift to, because you have a very short amount of time to do that.
It is, but I've done it for a while now where it's just like it's in me, you know, but a little bit. I just remember myself at the top, and then the minute I make my costume change into, you know, young Glinda, I'm like, okay.
The appeal of your show means that not only are families and theater goers and people who love musical theater and people who only love this show and don't really love it all come to see your show.
Yes.
But a lot of young actors come to see you. And having seen you two last night, I know that this company is as good as any company I've ever seen.
Thank
and
you.
you two are as good as any pair I've seen do this.
Thank you.
How does that feel to you, knowing that those actors, those young actresses in particular, are seeing you and, you know, kind of want to follow in your footsteps?
It gives me meaning to what I do. That's a small piece of why I love doing Wicked so much. Is so many people I meet so many people at the stage door, actresses or non-actresses, you know, like who just feel like they can identify. And I love that is one of my favorite parts. Is I love people and I love community. So this is what Wicked has kind of been for me in a lot of ways. I've met so many wonderful people, heard their stories. I'm moved just as much by them, you know, and I love answering questions at the stage doors, like how did you start, you know, or what's it like?
Well, how did you start?
Oh, I was very shy as a child. So my mother just kind of, like, I was so shy that I would only sing for people if I could stand in the closet and shut the door. And then,
Those aren't good acoustics. The bathroom is better.
well, now I know. But my mother put me into some dance classes and stuff because my sister did it. So I just kind of tagged along, and I liked it. And I just liked being around people and hanging out, you know. I was athletic as a kid. I really wanted to be a soccer player when I grew up. That's the truth of the matter is. But there really wasn't much of a career for that.
You're kind
so.
of petite for a soccer player.
Yes, and there's really not many
Yeah, but
opportunities.
you should see her kick.
Now, you know, not only does Glinda get that same reaction at the stage door, but we know that you do as well as Elphaba. And I want to know, how does that feel to you? How do you all
It
internalize that?
feels wonderful, of course, because I think they've, you know, we have written in this play very identifiable themes, even though the show takes place in a very fantastical, kind of very different world.
I think that's what allows you to tell this story
think
without
it
being
is.
jaded.
I think it is. I think that's what allows it to be fresh. I think it's true. But that's the great thing, is that at its core, it's really, you know, deep down, it's a story about friendship. It's a story about discovering who you are. It's a story about, you know, finding the good and the evil and that balance in your life. And it's very
And the cost of choices.
exactly. It's these are themes that everyone can identify with.
And forgiveness in a lot of ways. I love that at the end.
Forgiveness.
That's a big thing of we've gone through it and we've each done stuff to each other that have affected each other that we're not proud of, but your relationship means more to me than
Yeah.
holding a grudge or anything, and I still love you and I forgive you and I hope you do too. You know, I love that at the end, you know.
I think that every single person in the audience can feel that and know that. And we wouldn't believe it if it didn't have some basis in reality in your work that you do as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why it feels good to know, because I feel like it's, if we can bring that across and make those characters that identifiable, it feels like we've done our jobs well.
And the young women who are looking at you going, I want to...
I want to do that. I want to be that. Yeah, I meet a lot of young women at the stage door who say, you know, this is my lifelong dream. I want to play Elphaba on Broadway. I can't wait to. And I think, I mean, you know, there are shows in every generation. There are plays like this that really speak to people, and this show speaks to people of all ages. I mean, you know, the themes kind of reverberate throughout, but we do have a really solid young fan base, and I think it's great because if we can get them excited in this story, in this production, it can enhance their lives and their participation in the arts forever. Whether they do become that actress that moves to New York that finds herself on Broadway, or whether she decides that's not the right route for her, but there are other ways that she can be creative and find the arts in her life. I think that's really important. We lose that a lot these days.
What was the show that did that for you?
I don't know if there was a specific show that did. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. Do you have
Is
a
there
show
one that did it for you?
No, I didn't even realize I could do this as a career till I was doing it. So I just liked the community of it. I just liked being around people and hanging out, and I love music, you know, so I just loved being in that. I mean, some of my favorite, I love Ragtime. I remember seeing that. I mean, that wasn't like a game changer for me, but in terms of this, what I want to do as a career, but I'm just like, I loved that show. I grew up on Les Mis.
Oh
which
yeah,
I
Les
loved,
Mis. That's true.
you
That was
know?
about our time.
I mean,
I
there
guess.
was music I loved to sing from different shows, you know? I think I just always, even though I didn't realize it, I just knew I was going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I love music. And
Well, the work you're doing on stage here at the Buell while you're in Denver for 6 weeks really is helping do that for so many audience goers, not only young audience goers, but of all ages. And I've loved getting to sort of peek into your community and meet the two of you and say hello to you again.
Yes, again.
Thank you so much, and welcome back to Colorado.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
This powerhouse production of Wicked will be at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts through May 20th. Visit denvercenter.org for ticket information.
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.